The Vaxee NP01 is absolutely incredible, and let me tell you why I like it so much. So the weight balancing on this mouse feels perfect, which actually makes it feel significantly lighter than it actually is. It's about 73 grams on my scales. The shell is very rigid, there's no flex or creaking, and this mouse feels very premium in my hands. The coating is also very grippy. It feels chalky to my skin, maybe a little bit rubbery too, and I've only needed to use grip tape when fingertipping this mouse, and that's only because my thumb placement lands on the most aggressive area of the thumb's comfort grooves. When I fingertip grip this mouse, my thumb just slowly kind of creeps forward, so when I do fingertip, I put a little bit of a grip tape square in this location here. When I use this mouse in claw and palm grip, the coating has been awesome. I really couldn't ask for more in this department, and it's actually my favourite coating of any mouse I've used. The button implementation on the NP01 has also been perfection in my eyes, somewhat unsurprising if you've seen any of my recent reviews. The NP01 is the poster child of the perfect click implementation, at least for my preferences. It's got nice, crispy, mechanical switches that are very satisfying to press. They respond very quickly when you press them, and they're quite light as well, which suits my preferences quite nicely. The scroll wheel is also brilliant. It's not too defined, it's not too light in its steps. It's kind of somewhere nicely in the middle, and it's really easy to actuate the mouse-free button. And then the side buttons are also really good. So they're nice and defined on the side of the mouse. They're very easy to locate with their placement, and they're easy to actuate in those high-octane moments. The Vaxee button implementation is as close to perfect as you can get, at least for my preferences. So this is actually a huge deal in mouse design, because if the buttons don't feel good to use, you won't want to use that mouse. I have found the Vaxee mice to be so well tuned in the button department that I can be completely absorbed in my gameplay and activate the buttons without thinking in complete confidence of their functions. This has not always been the case with my other mice, and I only realised this when I first tried a Vaxee mouse. I've said it before, but the buttons on Vaxee mice are so good that it makes me look at some of my other favourite mice a little differently now. I'm less tolerant to poor button implementation now that I have something that I would consider to be pretty much perfect for me. So the NP01 doesn't have any software to speak of. You can change the settings on the bottom of the mouse with various button combinations. And the Vaxee mice now come with a 4K receiver, which is important to some people. I've actually got mine set to 1K polling rate because 4K sucks the life out of my computer. I think it's a great feature for Vaxee to be selling these 4K receivers in the box with their mice, so you don't get a 1K receiver anymore, you just get a 4K one, and then you can just adapt the polling rate on the mouse as you see fit through different button combinations. It's a really good direction for Vaxee to have taken here. And I really don't have a single negative thing to say about the NP01 in terms of build quality and button implementation. I have one concern for the next versions of Vaxee mice though, and that's their intent to reduce the weight of their mice going into the future. Now I think a well-balanced, rock-solid mouse at 70 grams is perfectly enjoyable to use. And as I say, I love the mouse as it is, and I wouldn't change a single thing about it, and that includes the weight. I just hope Vaxee don't compromise too much on what makes their mice special in pursuit of making this small community happy. So I want to talk now about the shape and how it feels in my hands, and in my opinion the NP01 feels like a completely different mouse to the NP01S, which is essentially a scaled down version of the NP01. The NP01 isn't any longer than the NP01S, which I found to be an interesting design decision. Typically when a mouse is made into a larger size they increase the length slightly too, and all they've done here to upscale the NP01S is increase the width. So if the NP01S feels like a thin and narrow pencil, the NP01 feels like a wide and chunky crayon by comparison. The NP01 fills my hand really nicely. I can get access to all the different elements of the shape, and it is just insanely comfortable in my hands. The NP01 is an asymmetrical mouse, which harnesses some of my favourite elements from an ergonomic mouse while also having a nice palm-filling hump at the back. This means my palm or the depths of my hand are very well supported in my relaxed claw or palm grip, and my fingers are supported on the right hand side of the mouse due to the finger shelf and the carefully crafted shape. My thumb is locked in up to the knuckle, and I have so much contact with this mouse on all sides that it feels so good. And it feels so locked in, it's so comfortable. I don't know that I would change anything about the shape of this mouse. This is actually the first mouse that I've used that I've preferred to claw grip than to palm grip. And I put that down to the finger shelf on the right hand side, just giving my pinky somewhere easy to access on that side of the mouse. You know, when compared to a symmetrical mouse that bends in at the sides, an asymmetrical mouse comes out to meet your fingers, and overall I have much less stress in my hands in claw grip with this kind of mouse. The hump profile of the NP01 is quite steep and it's very wide at the back. This means it can give you a nice platform to fit your palm grip onto. Just press up against the steep bit at the back if you want, or depending on how you approach the mouse, you can also get this really nice palm filling feeling. The hump starts in the thumb area of the mouse, just here, and it swings all the way around to the other side of the mouse into the finger shelf area of the mouse. It feels really wide and I get an awful lot of contact in this area of my hand all the way across, and when I palm the NP01, I get contact with all of my knuckles across the top of the hump on the mouse, including my thumb. The hump has a bit of a plateau at its peak, which is part of the reason it is comfortable for me in palm grip, and I tend to lay my knuckles across the hump and press my fingers into the side of the mouse in that nice shape on the right hand side. So you see I just slip my fingers into that little shape on the right hand side and just rest my knuckles across the top of the mouse. So this is my typical approach when I palm grip this mouse, and I have very limited inner hand maneuverability in this grip, but I do perform really well like this, and it is really consistent for me. Having said that, I feel this mouse is particularly special in claw grip, and my favourite claw grip approach is a typical relaxed claw. It feels really lazy and extremely comfortable. Again, all of my knuckles are in contact with the mouse. My ring and pinky finger just naturally press lightly into the side of the mouse, and there's really no stress in my grip whatsoever. It feels like a good compromise between a palm grip and an aggressive claw grip, which you can also do on this mouse. So what I'm trying to convey is that the NP01 has this really nice in-hand feeling. You know, it feels like it's inside your grip. And if you remember what it feels like as a kid, when you find a really good stick and you squeeze it and it feels tailor-made for you, and you just kind of hold it and it feels really satisfying, you don't want to let go of it. That's kind of what I would refer to the NP01 as. And yes, of course, I've got a stick in my house. So I'll be reviewing the EC1-CW next. That's my previous main mouse. And this mouse feels really distinctly different to the NP01. And the way I describe it, to continue the weird stick analogy, is that if the NP01 feels like it's inside your grip, like you're holding a really nice tailor-made stick, the EC1-CW kind of feels like you've got your hand on top of a riverbed stone. And I don't have a riverbed stone, but I do have a bowl, which is kind of the same shape. So the NP01 is inside your grip, and then the EC1 kind of feels like it's just under your hand, which is kind of being directed by the way that you manipulate it on a desk, of course, like every other mouse. But that's kind of the main difference in the experience that they provide. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll try and explain it more in my EC1 review. I've also had a really good time with this mouse in fingertip grip, specifically with my fingers in this position. And I know fingertip mice are typically lighter and thinner shapes, but for some reason that I can't quite put my finger on, this chunky boy works really well for me. And I've been super consistent with it when compared to other mice that I enjoy playing with in fingertip grip. So there's no doubt that the NP01 is my new #1 mouse. I love this thing. And it's actually so good that when I received it, it made me question the future of my YouTube channel. Because when you have found your #1 mouse, you know, what I would consider now to be pretty much endgame for me, what's the purpose in exploring other mice and testing them for review? You know, once you've found what you're looking for, why keep doing it? So, thankfully, I slept that niggly feeling off and I'm back on the YouTube grind. But I am genuinely smitten by this mouse. I love it. I think it's perfect for my preferences. And I can't express enough thanks to Vaxee for sending it to me for a review. I will really appreciate your support. So with all of that being said, all of the praise for the NP01, my next review will be for my previous main, the EC1-CW, solidly sat in my number 2 spot now, and I can't imagine anything knocking it out of that space anytime soon. I keep coming back to this thing, I can't shake it, and it's criminal that I haven't done a review for it already. This mouse was my main for sort of 7 months, and I want to have a good little conversation about that one in my next review. All right, take care, ballers. I appreciate you, and we'll chat soon.